Talk about low-budget flights. No food horror movies? I'm out of here. I like running better. So, I recently got done rewatching all of the best Dreamworks movies. If you want to know what those are, I'll link my letterbox down in the description. You can check out my ranking I did of it. All the 8 out of 10s and above are what I've rewatched. Barring that plug out of the way, I just thought, you know what? Why not rank the best 10 Dreamworks villains? Now, if you're a longtime viewer of my channel, like some of you might be, you know that I actually did this last year. Except, I think that video wasn't the best. I'd have some different choices now. I've gotten better at this YouTube thing. And I just felt like talking about these. Everyone's talked about DreamWorks villains before, because, why not? They're great and good video topics. So, without further ado, let's dive on into number 10. Before I do talk about number 10, I just want to say that some of these choices will probably really surprise you. Number 10, the Toad from Flushed Away. Toad's really good. I liked him. Honestly, on rewatch, Flushed Away might be my favorite Aardman movie. Not just for the ones they did with DreamWorks, but just out of all their movies in general. Flushed Away is really funny. One thing I liked about the Toad is that he's the kind of like Kingpin-esque villain from Spider-Man. Where he's more of this mastermind type villain than that guy will actually fight the hero. And Flushed Away doesn't really have your traditional action sequences anyway, so it wouldn't really have made sense for him to be that kind of a villain. And I'm going to mention this for basically all these guys, but the vocal performance is really good. He was voiced by Ian McKellen of all people, Gandalf and Magneto, so he did a really good job here. Like when he explains his over-the-top tragic backstory to his cousin about how he was once the pet toad of the Prince of England, and he was loved so much until that prince got a new rat as a new pet, and I got flushed down the toilet into the sewers. And now he has this genuinely really creative plan that I have no idea how the writers came up with to destroy the rat city. Like, yeah, really clever plan. The way it worked out. But yeah, he's also just really funny. Great vocal performance, good design. And I like his dynamics with all the characters, like his cousin Lifrog, who get it because he's the French version, so he's Leafrog, ha ha ha. Or his dynamics with Roddy and Rita. He's just fun, really funny villain. Good character, I liked him. Number 9. Okay, this will definitely surprise you. Professor Pippy P. Poopy Pants from Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. Yeah, I think he deserves to be on this list. I know a lot of people do like this movie, but they still probably think, really? Him at the top 10? Yeah, I do think so. Okay, 1, yes, I do find him to be genuinely funny and entertaining. It's just really funny to watch this super short guy with this loud voice yell at everyone, constantly snaps, and he has that cheesy German accent. I mean, he's pretty accurate to the books, I'll say that. I still remember being in theaters watching the scene where in his tragic backstory, where he was going to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, but when they read out his name, everyone started laughing in his face. Even though it's a traditional New Switzerland name, come on, guys. What's so funny about that? I mean, like, all of his lines are delivered with so much energy. Whoever did the voice for him did a great job. Like when he's using an ice cream truck for his hideout and some kid knocks on it and says, "Can I have vanilla?" And he says, "Go away, we're closed for Ebola!" Or he teams up with Melvin, which is something that would have been funny if they had done in the book, so I'm glad they got to do it here. When George says, "Isn't laughter the best medicine?" And he says, "No, medicine's the best medicine!" And yeah, the big fight with him and Captain Underpants at the end is genuinely pretty good. I like his defeat at the end. He's great. Which is weird to say, but I don't know. I think he deserves to be on this list. It's my list, my opinion. Number 8, Pitch Black, the Boogeyman from Rise of the Guardians. Last time I did this list, I put him at number 5. Now I gotta knock him down at number 8. He wasn't quite as good as I remembered, but he's still a really good villain. I'll have to talk about it first because everyone always says it. His design is so generic and boring. And I will say that, yes, it is simple and generic. And I could say that, well, just because it's supposed to be simple and generic, it's still lame, which I'd say it's not lame. I mean, he does look menacing. The vocal performance complements him really well. He probably has one of the best vocal performances out of any of the DreamWorks villains. And I like the way he's always placed above the heroes until the climax where he finally gets defeated. And usually he's placed in some kind of colorful location, so him being all gray actually does look good because it contrasts the rest of the film. The Guardians are blue and red and green, and he's gray, but it actually works. He has the cool nightmare powers with the evil horses or whatever. We get an actually good version of the cliche scene in every story to ever exist, where the villain says to the hero, "Well, we could join forces and we'd really get places, kid." Why do all these movies have that? That I'm thinking about his design, kind of reminds me of Hades from Hercules. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I feel like the only thing that's missing from him is having some kind of menacing theme song. Because he is a pretty menacing villain. Yeah, I like his backstory about how back in the Dark Ages, everyone was terrified of the boogeyman. He spread his nightmares until the Guardians showed up and everyone forgot he even existed. So his goal now is to spread fear and terror across the world, causing nightmares that people will believe in him again and will be afraid of him again. And they'll forget the Guardians even exist, which will make it easier for him to do his thing. Yeah, pretty creative ideas, and they're executed pretty well. He's just a really good villain. Great, even. Number 7. Rumpelstiltskin from Shrek Forever After. Rumpelstiltskin is my favorite villain from the Shrek movies. And I just mean like the Shrek saga, not Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Believe me, we'll get to that later. Now, one can say, wait, doesn't that mean Fairy Godmother is not on this list? Yeah, I'm just going to talk about her really quickly because I don't really... Fairy Godmother, yes, the whole I Need a Hero sequence at the end of Shrek 2 is amazing. It's still my favorite of the Shrek movies, I'll give you that. And she did provide a good threat and all that and served a good role in the story, but I just didn't find her nearly as memorable or as menacing as other DreamWorks villains. Honestly, I'd say Lord Farquaad is better than her, but Rumpelstiltskin is good because he kind of is a combination of Farquaad and Fairy Godmother. He's this short guy that gets really angry, like Lord Farquaad, who's super egotistical, but also is more menacing and comes up with these. Much like Fairy Godmother, he's also able to come up with these long-term plans and all that. It's done pretty well. Like, I saw recently that if you look in the background of the scene where Shrek and Fiona are arguing, you can see him hiding in the back, looking at them, which is probably where he begins his plot. That's a really nice detail. I like his motivation here for why Fiona's parents were so worried that Fiona would never get released from the tower that they were about to sign a deal with Rumpelstiltskin that would get her out, but it would sign over the kingdom of far, far away to him. But of course, at the last second, just as they were about to sign it, they found out their daughter got freed, and so they tore up his deal. And now he wants to get revenge, and he manipulates Shrek into saying, "Oh, come on, you can have just one day to be a scary ogre again. And all you'll need to do is give me one day from your childhood. It could be any day. Maybe a day you were sick or lost a pet, or maybe when you were a stupid, mindless baby." And Shrek says, "Oh, yeah, sure. I don't care which of those days you take. You can take all of them for all I care." And then Rumpelstiltskin uses that to take away the day Shrek was born, meaning he never even existed. And now he only has 24 hours to break the curse before Rumpelstiltskin just completely wins. Like, we see him take over the kingdom, completely destroying everything, basically. He's dressed in this fancy white robe now with these big shoes, and he puts on these huge wigs. He's probably one of the funniest villains DreamWorks has ever done. I don't know, I just always found the scene funny where Pinocchio comes up to him and wants to write a deal with him to make him a real boy. That's really more so makes Pinocchio funny, but whatever. Also, as I mentioned before, sort of, yeah, he's genuinely a pretty smart villain too. Like at the end when Shrek uses that his wish to free all ogres, but it doesn't free Fiona because, as Rumpel says, "Well, your deal was to free all ogres, and she's not all ogre, is she? Ha ha! No one's smart but me!" Until, of course, he does get defeated at the end with true love's first kiss and all that. And then he is locked up in a cage as all the other characters dance and sing in the climax. Yeah, he's great, I'd say. It's not like Shrek Forever After is my top 10 favorite DreamWorks movies or anything like that, but yeah, I still thought he was really good villain. Number 6, Titan from Megamind. Now this is a great how you do a great villain. There's one thing I want to say really quickly though is that everyone always talks about how Titan is some kind of like the nice guy or whatever, which no. There's a whole video about it. Summarize it's that Titan is how I always saw him really. He's supposed to be the kind of guy living in his parents' basement archetype, that kind of a character, and I think he does that really well. He's introduced as sort of this parody of Jimmy Olsen because he's the cameraman to Roxanne. Richie is supposed to be Lois Lane, except unlike Jimmy Olsen, he's not some kind of nice, friendly guy who becomes the hero's sidekick or anything like that. He is just a loser. He's a fat, nerdy loser who lives in this small apartment by himself. There's that part where he's trying to ask Roxanne to come to a party, and he says, "Oh, see, I'm having this party at my place, and you can come along. It'll be super fun." She says, "Sorry, Hal, I'm just not in the mood to be around people tonight." And he says, "What's the thing? It'll be great because it'll just be the two of us." And I also hired a professional photographer, a wedding photographer, so we could take a picture of something if it were something we want to have for like forever. I even have a bouncy castle, and she just creepily she walks away clearly creeped out, and he says, "Ugh, why did I say that? Chicks don't like bouncy castles, they like clowns." He would already be great if he were just that comic relief character. But then we get another one of Megamind's brilliant subversions. Megamind accidentally gives him Metro Man superpowers and thinks, "Okay, I'm gonna teach this guy how to be a superhero, and he'll be my new arch rival." And he trains Hal and everything. But then he sees, "Hey, why didn't you show up to our big epic battle?" And he sees that he's just sitting in his super small apartment, which is hilarious how small it is, playing video games, and he has a stack of stolen money. And Megamind's like, says to him, "How could you steal all that money? You're supposed to be a superhero." And he says, "Oh, come on. I only took the job to get the girl, which I didn't. Using my power, why should I have to work for other people? Using my powers to get things for myself is way better." And then he becomes a crazed supervillain who basically blows up a bunch of stuff in this city and is gonna conquer everyone, I guess. Until Megamind stops him at the end and all that. And of course, there's a legendary line, "Roxanne, you're living in a fantasy world. There is no, green cheese on the moon, there is no tooth fairy, and there is no Queen of England." Whoever wrote that line deserves a raise. I also like the scene of him, like, once he gets arrested at the end, he's just dancing along in the prison as the "I'm Bad" Michael Jackson song plays for some reason. I don't know, I just found that to be funny. Man, he's great. There are lots of great videos on why Titan is such a good villain. As everyone's talked about, yeah, he's a great subversion of what you'd expect from a superhero. I also like how he contrasts Megamind, because Megamind thinking, "You're right, Roxanne, heroes aren't born, they're made," except Megamind thought that meant, "Oh, heroes are literally made in a lab," which is what he tries to do with Titan. But thing is, heroes are made from experience. When he tried, and also Megamind's whole arc is about learning that you don't have to be who society says you do. You can be anyone you want to be. And yeah, Hal does that, except he chooses, instead of to be a hero like society, or I guess Megamind may want him to be, he chooses to be a crazed supervillain. Number 5. This pick might be sort of controversial. I don't think it'd be controversial that he's on the list. I think it's more so controversial that he's this high up. Grimmel from How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. I mean, if I'm gonna start saying how great Dreamworks is, I have to talk about How to Train Your Dragon at some point. Yeah, I think Grimmel is a genuinely fantastic villain. I already thought he was good before, but rewatching the trilogy again really gives me a newfound appreciation for him as a villain. I will say this, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think Drago Bloodfist from the second movie is actually a good villain. Is his scream stupid and does it make me laugh? Yes, it does. But I think pretty much everything else about him was handled pretty well. But even then, he's not top 10 material, but Grimmel definitely is. They talk about how they designed him on the DVD special features that we watched. Interesting to see that. So Draco was, this huge buff guy with this big stick, and he could command the Alpha Dragon. And he was so huge, he was able to stomp on a monstrous nightmare's head and subjugate it. And all these dragons are afraid of him. And the director said that when they designed Drago, he was created to be like a predator almost, this hulking brute of a man. Except in Grimmel's case, they made him this guy with this gray hair. He's skinny. He's smaller. They made him spry, is what the word they used. But it really helped. The design is really good as it adds to his personality. He's portrayed as this old, but very experienced and very smart and stealthy hunter. Drago was a dragon trapper who wanted to build an army of dragons so he could rule the world and get revenge on people and dragons for destroying his life or whatever. Grimwald is a little different. Instead of commanding some huge army, no. The only reason he even has access to an army in this movie is because he is hired by 3 other warlords to catch Hiccup and Toothless for them. And he doesn't merely want to enslave dragons for his own purposes. He just wants to kill them. All of them. He's a hunter. I mean, the scene where he confronts Hiccup in his house is really tense. I didn't mention this when I reviewed the trilogy last time, which because I guess I didn't really hit until my most recent rewatch, but it's that all 3 of these movies do a really good job creating tense scenes. I could hear my heart pounding during some of them. Only other one of these movies to make me do that was The Last Wish. Like the scene where he confronts Hiccup as he says, "You have no idea who I am, do you?" I am the Night Fury Killer. Like the way his eyes are animated when he speaks, and the music and the lighting, it's handled really well. Because Drago is made to contrast Hiccup in that he also lost a limb because of dragons, except Hiccup didn't mind losing a limb and was able to, I guess, use it to sort of help him out. Drago wore this huge cloak to cover up his prosthetic arm. He hated dragons for what they did to him. But Grimmel contrasts Hiccup in that his story started when he found he had a Night Fury tied up. Except Hiccup decided to let that Night Fury go, Toothless obviously, which kickstarts the whole events of the trilogy. Grimmel killed it where it slept. And then he decided to kill all Night Furies. All except for Toothless, which is why Toothless is the last of the Night Furies. I guess not the Light Fury, but whatever, it's a different thing. So I find it interesting how we contrast Hiccup in that way. Hiccup believes humans and dragons can peacefully coexist. It'll be a hard-fought battle, but it can happen. But Grimmel is the ultimate example of people who don't view dragons as intelligent creatures, but as just violent beasts who all need to be killed. And of course that scene where he talks to Hiccup, the line everyone talks about, where he says, "Your father, now that was a chief. One of the finest dragon hunters I have ever seen. He had it right, wanting to destroy the beast so that you could grow up in a better world." And Hiccup responds with, "He changed his mind." And then Grimmel just fires back at him with, "And look where that got him." And even as Hiccup goes on about how, "You think you can come in my home and sit in my father's chair?" And then Grimmel just gets up in his face and says, "You foolish boy. You have never seen anything like me." And then his giant fanged dragons that shoot venom and have scorpion tails or whatever appear in the dark and blow the place up. And throughout the entire movie, he's continuously pursuing all the Burkians, constantly being able to track down wherever they go, predict their every move, until the end, where he and Hiccup are trying to grab onto a dragon as they're about to fall into the ocean and drown and die. Except Hiccup detaches his prosthetic leg that Grimmel's holding onto, and he falls into the water and dies. Yeah. Both he and Drago drown. I guess that was the least violent way they could think of to kill off the villains, but it worked. It worked both really well both times anyway. I do want to acknowledge that a lot of people have said that Grimmel is a good villain, but just a lamer version of Vigo Grimborn from Race to the Edge, Netflix show. No, I too actually is referenced, by the way. I didn't understand that line the first time I saw this movie, but I did on my rewatches. When Era is explaining to Hiccup and Astrid who Grimmel is, as he says he's a hunter, likes to get inside the mind of his prey, and Hiccup says, "Oh yeah, well, we've dealt with his kind before." But honestly, I think Grimmel's better than Vigo. I think Vigo was a good villain. He's also played by a celebrity, funnily enough. But I don't know. I feel like as good as he was, okay, yes, I did see the movie first, but also, yeah, he may have been a really good threat, but he just didn't really have the same kind of menacing presence that I think Grimmel did have, and he didn't really do much thematically. Vigo, that is. Grimmel did a lot. He the way he was able to show Hiccup how, yeah, maybe dragons and humans can live in peace one day, but not now. Not when there are people like Grimmel who will never stop chasing after dragons, who will never stop trying to kill them. And that ultimately setting them free to the hidden world was the best thing he could have done for them. Number 4, Lord Shen from Kung Fu Panda 2. He's probably probably the second most talked about DreamWorks villain. And for good reason. Lord Shen is just a really great villain. Tai Lung was this big, strong guy. But Lord Shen, now, well, he can fight. We only ever see him fight once, arguably twice. Instead, he's a mastermind villain with this huge army of wolves, and yeah, everyone's talked about him, analyzed him, and for good reason. His backstory about how he was the prince of Gongmen City. His parents ruled over and they created fireworks and everyone loved them. But he used the fireworks to create cannons. And his parents got afraid of him that, oh my gosh, why is our son trying to build weapons of mass destruction? I mean, cannons may not seem like much now, but back in ancient China, they were a new thing, and they must have been pretty scary, as this movie shows. So his parents ask the soothsayer, hey, what's going to happen to our son? And she tells them, if your son continues down this dark path, he will be defeated by a warrior of black and white. So Shen's response to this is to try to massacre every single panda in the world, in this village anyway. Except he doesn't realize that Po gets saved, and since Shen tries to kill Po, that leads to Po even being trained in martial arts in the first place, and he ends up defeating him in the 20 years later. Really good stuff. Dramatic irony and all that. Or people have also said that, hey, it was said that Shen would be defeated by a warrior of black and white. Well, Shen is black and white, which, yeah, that would be some great dramatic irony, but he's more so white and red, but whatever. The vocal performance by Gary Oldman is really good. Oh, yeah. Forgot to mention the vocal performances for the last two villains, F. Murray Abraham and Jonah Hill. They did a great job, but Gary Oldman gives one of the best performances in any DreamWorks movie, probably, as any character, not just as the villains. Look at the scene where he's introduced, you slowly see him walk toward the Kung Fu masters. He reveals his canon as he says, oh, I have for you a parting gift. Leave a part of you here and there and over there. Oh, and don't forget over there. And he does just kill them, or at least one of them too anyway. And the way he just psychologically messes with Po, as Po is wondering, what happened to my biological parents? Did they abandon me or what? What happened? And Shen says to him, your parents didn't love you. Which ties back to Shen's own mindset, because he thinks that his parents didn't love him because they banished him. Which, I think that's what you should do if a guy tries to massacre an entire village full of people. And when the soothsayer tells him, your parents didn't hate you, they loved you. Sending them away is what killed them. They died of broken hearts, and he doesn't really have a response to that. He just says, the dead exists in the past. I must head into the future. The whole Kung Fu Panda 2, it's about accepting your trauma, not letting it define who you are now. You may never know certain things about your past, or you may never fully come to terms with them, but that's okay. What matters is who you choose to be now. But Shen would never let his trauma go away. It defines every single thing he does. He wants to get revenge on basically the entire world for no reason, really. He's told, ask, will subjugating the entire world finally make you feel better? And he says, oh, it's a start. And one thing I always liked about the Kung Fu Panda villains is that they're all offered redemption, except they all reject it because they're just so, they've fallen so far into their obsessions or whatever they're into that they just can't break free of it. When Poe tells him, it doesn't, that stuff from the past just doesn't matter anymore. What matters is who you choose to be now. Shen responds with, "You're right," and then he tries to kill Poe until he gets caught in an explosion, and boom, he's dead. What a really good, great villain. Yeah, everyone's talked about him for a reason. Lord Shen is just great. Number 3, Jack Horner from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. He and Shen have actually traded spots from the last list I did, but yeah. Jack Horner, as everyone has said, is really funny because, yeah, he's just this super over-the-top, irredeemable monster. Oh, what took you so long? Eh? Love that scene. Yeah, he perfectly works in this movie because he does a great job contrasting the message. As it's been discussed before, every character in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish exists to show off the theme of gratitude in some way. Puss learns that maybe one life is enough. What matters is valuing it. The people you have, the places you've been, and all that. Be grateful for having one life. You don't need to have 9 of them. Kitty learns to be grateful for the people in her life. That she's learned that she can finally trust people. You can't just say to everybody, "Oh, I don't trust you. No one's that nice. No one's that stupid." Goldilocks learns that just because she's adopted doesn't mean the 3 bears aren't her family. She needs to be grateful for them. But then Jack Horner is just, I am evil and I want more, more, more. As he says, I didn't have much as a kid. Just loving parents, stability in a mansion, a thriving baked goods enterprise for me to inherit. And he calls that stuff useless. What I also find funny is that he mentions the loving parents first, meaning that, yeah, he really probably did value his parents to some extent. He understands they loved him, not like Shen who thought they hated him, but no, it just doesn't matter to him. He has this Jimmy Stewart, Jiminy Cricket guy follow him around as his conscience, trying to find out that there must be something sad that happened to him that made him turn such an evil man. But no, he's just the worst. That is his entire character. And yeah, he's just really funny. His design, his voice, or, "You're not gonna shoot a puppy, Jack, are ya? In the face? Yeah, why? Whoa, unicorn horns! Baby unicorn horns, even more rare and even sharper." And then when he dies, he acknowledges that, yeah, he deserved it. And of course, there's that scene where Priyo tries to get him to, tries to redeem him by showing him, big puppy eyes and saying, "Aw, they're such pools of vulnerability. That's adorable." But you thought that would work. Don't you know I'm dead inside? What a phenomenal villain. And a really funny character. And a Disney allegory, actually. Number 2, Tai Lung from Kung Fu Panda. Yeah, much like Shen, everyone, and I guess Jack Horner, a lot of these top 5 villains, everyone's talked about him for a reason. Lord Shen is the ultimate example of how to do an understandable villain. Meaning, the movie never tells you that, oh, he wasn't so bad, we shouldn't get so mad at him going on violent rampages. But it still does explain why he went on those violent rampages. He's basically just Moro from Ninjago, except 7 years before Ninjago possession, but whatever. Honestly, it's probably why I liked his story so much, because I've been watching Ninjago for so much of my life. But anyway, so yeah, I always liked his backstory, which is he was found as a baby by Shifu on his doorstep, and he raised him as his son when he found out, hey, this kid has real talent in Kung Fu. I'm going to teach him. And he teaches him to be this great Kung Fu master, and he's even told that, hey, maybe one day you can become the Dragon Warrior, and you'll be worthy of the Dragon Scroll, the secret to unlimited power. But once he hears that, for Tai Lung, it's no longer about being a kung fu master for the sake of self-improvement and, to please his father. It's, I need limitless power. He spent his entire life chasing after this goal. So when Oogway sees that this guy is pretty self-obsessed and probably has darkness in his heart, he's not worthy of the Dragon Scroll. When the thing he spent his entire life chasing after, he turns out he's not gonna get it. He goes crazy, and then he gets locked up in a cell for 20 years until he finally escapes. He spent so long chasing after the Dragon Scroll that it's basically his entire life. If he doesn't have that one external thing, then he's nothing. He travels across the world, across multiple different biomes, assumedly, fights off the Furious Five single-handedly, and is willing to kill Shifu, his adopted father, just so he can finally have the Dragon Scroll. And when Shifu even apologizes to him, gives him a really heartfelt apology, yeah, for a few seconds you can see from his facial expression, he does consider saying, you know what, you're right, I don't need to do this, I don't need the Dragon Scroll. He says, I don't want your apology, I want the scroll! Like I said with Shen, all the Kung Fu Panda villains, or at least, I guess the first two anyway, could be redeemed, or at least they're offered a chance to do better. But they say, no way, I'm evil. Much like Jack Horner, actually. Side note, that's what I like about a lot of these DreamWorks villains. They aren't trying to shove redeemable villains in your face all the time, which those can work, but they usually don't. They're telling you that these guys are evil, they're bad guys. I mean, anyone who does this kind of stuff is clearly bad and not worthy of redemption, because that's kind of true. Like, if you go on a violent rampage and, he probably killed those 1,000 prison guards that were guarding him back when he was in prison. Yeah, you kill 1,000 guys there without remorse. You're evil. And once Po gets the Dragon Scroll, he starts chasing after Po. He becomes blinded by it. All he wants to do now is catch up to Po and steal the seat because the scroll has given him power. And then when he finally gets and opens it up, he finds out what Po did, which is that the scroll is blank. It's just a piece of golden paper. But as Po tries to explain to him, there is no secret ingredient. It's just you, as you can see his reflection in the paper. That's the point. Yeah, it's just you. What matters is external things don't make you special. You make yourself special. Self-improvement and all that. Self-discovery too. But to Tai Lung, the thing he spent his entire life chasing after was just a blank piece of paper. He sees nothing in it. Nice touch that when Po looks at the Dragon Scroll, he does see his reflection. But Tai Lung, no, he doesn't see his reflection. He doesn't see his reflection. He just sees nothing. And then he's finally just killed when he tries to force a fight with Po. His anger and obsession was his undoing. How ironic. Number one, surprising no one, yeah, it's death. And he doesn't mean it metaphorically or rhetorically or theoretically or poetically. I'm death. Straight up. Okay, now is the time to say that I think Wagner Moura as Death is the greatest vocal performance in any DreamWorks movie. Like, all the other guys, Ian McShane as Tai Lung, F. Murray Abraham as Grimmel, Ian McKellen as the Toad, etc., etc., those guys are great. But they have nothing on this guy. I don't know how he gave such a committed performance, but he did. Every single line he says sounds scary in some respect. Like, every time he shows up with his whistle, I can feel my heart pounding. The way he's animated, he's never treated as a joke even once. He's always portrayed as this scary guy that means business. And yeah, first time I watched the movie, I was surprised by the revelation that he's the physical manifestation of death itself. And even though, yeah, it is more obvious in hindsight, it's still a great reveal. And it makes sense that Po wouldn't immediately think that death is chasing after him. I mean, how would that even happen? Side note, I just love the line where Kitty chews him out for stealing the map, and he says, "Kitty, you don't understand! Death is after me!" And Jack Horner says, I've been called a lot of things. A lot. But never death. I like it. But that's Jack Horner, whatever. So, yeah, Death himself. He only has, what, 7 minutes of screen time, but he was the highlight of the movie, and the movie is excellent. One of my favorites of all time. And yeah, if the movie didn't actually have death as a character and it was just about Puss's fear of death, it would still be a great movie. I mean, you'd still have the same lessons and messages and themes and all that. You'd still have a great villain with Jack Horner, but no. Adding death as a character was such a clever move that really added to the story. And the way he's presented doesn't just feel like they're trying to scare you for the sake of scaring you. It as genuinely scare not necessarily scary. I think unsettling is a better word for it. The way he moves around with his blades and his voice and his eyes. His final battle with Puss is just so cool looking. And yeah, he is a villain. He's not an antagonist because it would be one thing if you were saying to Puss, "You're supposed to die, so I'm just going to take your soul." But he is going out of his way to kill Puss. As he says, I'm really not a cat person. I find the idea of 9 lives absurd, and you didn't value any of them. Can I just say the scene where he confronts Puss in the Cave of Lost Souls is probably one of the 3 best in the entire movie. Probably because of the visuals, but that's a whole other thing. I mean, yeah, the visual presentation really sells his character. This movie shows how having frightening imagery can actually work. You can put in things like his face with the glowing red eyes being shown everywhere as Puss is running away from him in terror. You can have that work and not just have it be shock value for the sake of shock value. And yeah, Puss accepts at the end, I can't defeat death. That's just impossible. And as Death says, I came here to kill an I came here for an arrogant little legend who thought he was immortal. But I don't see him anymore. Despite the fact that he is a villain and was trying to kill Puss for no reason, really. After Puss learns his lesson, he accepts, you know what? Fine. You learn your lesson. You're not doing the thing I wanted to kill you for, so fine. We'll meet again someday, and you know that, but I'm gone. Yeah, it is amazing to me just how many great villains Dreamworks has been able to do. And this isn't even all of them. I mean, there are other ones too. Ramses, I guess. I'm not really the biggest fan of him, honestly. Fairy Godmother was pretty good. Lord Farquaad. Kai was decent. I thought Drago Bloodfist was pretty good. There's Victor Quartermain, Petey, Flippy, Vontra from the Wild Robot, etc., etc. I could go on with the examples. There's just a ton of really solid DreamWorks villains. And I think the best video on them is from Why DreamWorks Villains Are Superior from Greg Owen, which goes over how in a lot of their best movies, the villains in these DreamWorks movies works because he represents the negative example of the theme, as I've gone over multiple times in this video. Kung Fu Panda is about why internal validation is better than external validation. Poe learns true power and being special that comes from yourself, from within. Tai Lung, everything for him is based on this external big fancy scroll. Grimmel versus Hiccup. Hiccup shows how the right choice was to give up his control, and let the dragons go. Grimmel is a hunter who, as he says, drugs his dragons into submission. He forces them into his control. Stuff like that. And I hope the studio continues to do more villains like this, because they have a really good backlog of villains and movies in general. Honestly, I think they have the most memorable villains out of any movie series, which is not really a series, no, it's a studio, but whatever, because there are live-action movies with great villains, but I can't actually remember a lot of them. Only more specific ones like Davy Jones or something like that. And Pixar has some really good ones. I've talked about them before. I did a ranking, but, not as many. Disney has some great ones, but they also have some ones that just are okay. Anyway, that's all for now. Remember to check out my Letterboxd and Serialized, which will link in the description. And remember to stay way past cool.